Welcome to Energetic Advantage, the podcast where energy isn't woo, it's your edge. I'm your host, Jessica Serrato, intuitive strategist, lifelong pattern decoder, lover of numbers, and energetic guide for visionary leaders. Around here, we go energy first, strategy second. Every episode will give you a perspective, a tool, or a timeline shift that helps you lead from your power. Because the truth is, your energy is your most undervalued asset until you learn how to use it. Get ready, you're about to have the advantage. Let's begin. Hey, welcome everyone to your August energy forecast. If you are new here, welcome. And if you've been with me for a while, you already know that these are my favorite episodes to record because they're just so full of possibility. Before we dive in today, I have a little surprise for you. Actually, it's kind of a big surprise. At the end of today's episode, I'm going to share something that I've been working on behind the scenes for quite a while now. And it is something I honestly never imagined I'd be doing. So stick with me into the end because I have a feeling you're going to be as surprised as I was, and I hope as excited as I am. Okay, so first things first, back to the forecast. You know, if you've been with me for a while, or even, like I said, if you're new here, I want you to feel into this concept of we never look at a month in isolation, right? The energy doesn't reset on the first of the month. It's not like a light switch where all of a sudden, at midnight between July 31st and August 1st, it's like off, on, right? Energy, we know, is more like a wave. And, the waves come together and they kind of like mesh in the middle for a little bit before they kind of create their own waves. It's like that part of the ocean where the blue comes in with the green. The energy feels like that. And just like a wave is part of the bigger ocean, every month is part of the bigger conversation of the year. So before we dive deep into August, and don't worry, I got all the deets for you. I've got the opportunities, the challenges. I want to zoom out for just a moment here because August will make so much more sense and feel so much more grounded when we can actually remember where we are coming from and kind of have this anchor point. So, back ahead of this quarter, and right now we're smack in the middle of Q3. Quarter 3, I'm calling the season of light. And, it's not because life suddenly becomes crystal clear. It's because this is the season, this is the quarter where you become the light. I keep coming back to this image. I know if you're listening to me, you can't see it, but if it's behind me, and it's the amazing painting that this artist, Rachel Frisk, did for me. It came through my meditation. I told her what was happening in my mind, and she painted it. And this image includes a woman walking towards a star, holding a lantern. And at first glance, it looks like she's using the lantern to find the star. But that's not actually what is happening. She already knows where she's going. The lantern is not helping her find the destination. It's illuminating the space between where she is and where she's headed. And that, to me, is this entire lesson of quarter 3. We spend so much of life asking for clarity. One more sign, a sign of your sign, right? One more confirmation, one more guarantee, one more piece before we take the step. But quarter 3 keeps on asking us this question of, what if you already have enough light for the next step? Here's what I found. The moment that you can trust the light that you are already carrying, the path starts to reveal itself. Maybe not, 20 miles ahead or 50 kilometers, not the whole year, but enough for the next step, and then the next one, and then the one after that. And that's how life works. And that's how every meaningful thing that I've ever built has happened. Not because I knew exactly where it was going, but because I trusted the next step. And now when we go specifically back to July, that's what July was teaching us, right? Again, it wasn't about having all the answers. It was about creating momentum before certainty arrived. So in July, maybe you started the conversation, you launched the thing, you made the decision. I don't know about you, but I made more decisions in July than I did probably in the previous 3 months. And I don't mean decisions of like, what am I having for dinner? Sure. I mean big, impactful, strategic, life-changing decisions. You know, maybe you finally admitted something to yourself that you've been avoiding. And maybe it was as simple as you stopped waiting and you did the thing. Whatever it was, you moved because something inside of you became louder than your fear. We were walking the bridge and we didn't come this far just to come this far. I hope my voice was repeating in your brain for the month of July. And now August arrives. And here enters the 9. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so let's talk about the energy of August. August is a 9 month. And, you know, we think about where the 9 is on the Pythagorean grid, and it's the top right-hand corner, which tells us that it is a mental, masculine energy. It's also the 9th number of the 9 energy grid. And if you've, maybe studied numerology before or heard people talk about numerology, you've probably heard people describing the 9 as endings or release, a completion or letting go. And I am going to lovingly disagree. I'm actually going to call bullshit because that has never been my experience of the 9. Not personally, not with clients, not after reading thousands of charts. To me, the 9 isn't an ending. It's not a completion. It's not a release. That is so freaking limiting. And you know me, I don't limit. So how do I feel the 9? It's a threshold. And if I'm really being real here, which I always am, threshold is actually not the word that came through the meditation this month. I actually got the word liminal, but that doesn't quite roll off the tongue like threshold. And even I was like, okay, like what the heck does liminal mean, Jess? It's like one of those words where I'm like, I've heard it before. I think I know the meaning, but I hope no one asks me to define it. And so when I came out of my meditation, I looked it up and I laughed out loud because the word liminal comes from the Latin limen, meaning threshold. So like tomato, potato, liminal, threshold, whatever you want to call it. But this is where we get the phrases like a liminal space, right? This in-between place where we're no longer where we were, but we're not quite where we're becoming yet. It could be an airport, a hallway, dawn or dusk. Graduation for me really represents threshold energy. And, threshold is a perspective. Again, mental energy, right? Because it is the threshold where our perspective changes before our circumstances fully do. It's like reaching the top of one mountain and realizing that you're finally able to see the next mountain, right? There are literally mountains that you couldn't see from where you started. Because once you've climbed high enough, your view changes, your perspective changes. Nothing has to end. I want to say this louder for the people in the back, as the kids say. Nothing has to end. Your vantage point changes. And these are two very different energies and very different things. And going back to that graduation energy, I think back to my own, either high school or university. Some people were all in the same graduating class and there was such different energy from everyone. Some people couldn't wait to get the hell out of there, right? Some people cried because they were so happy. Some people cried because they were so sad. Some people were terrified. Some people were excited. Some people knew exactly what their plan was after graduation. Tell me, were you one of those people? And some people had absolutely no freaking idea what was coming after graduation. Was that you? Whatever you were on either polarity or somewhere in between, you can hear what I'm saying is that graduation didn't create one universal emotion. It simply marked a moment where everyone in that moment realized, we're at a threshold. And that's what August is. And from here, we have these such unique vantage points that we can see even more clearly where we have come from. And I'm going to tell you what I want you to do with that. Because, should I digress? I'll digress. Listen, when we have changing this vantage point, most of us tend to keep looking forward, which yes, we want to do because we can finally see further than we can before. And we see so many possibilities. And equally, we are able to see more of the journey from which we came. And that in itself requires you to do something, which is celebration. But I will come back to that. Because first I want to talk about math. How's that for let's get excited. Wait, first math. No, come on, math is so fun. Okay, I guarantee that if you are neutral about math, the 9 will change your mind. Because the number 9 is magic. It is one of my favorite numbers mathematically. Okay, because it's like a magic mirror. Are you ready for this? Anytime you add a number to 9, you get that same number. 9 plus 4 equals 13, but 1 plus 3 equals 4. 9 plus 7 equals 16, but 1 plus 6 equals 7. Guarantee you, test me, try me, take any number and prove that theory for yourself. And on the other side of the mirror, anytime you multiply a number by 9, you get 9. The 9 keeps finding its way back to itself. How amazing is that? That is exactly what growth is. Life, we have experiences, right? We have successes, we have failures, we have unexpected opportunities, curveballs. But somehow, if we're paying attention and being intentional with our choices, we keep finding our way back to ourselves. The version that was there all along. There's another energy that I always get with the 9, and it makes total sense to me mathematically. And I really hope by hearing this, you'll understand it innately also, is that the 9 energy, so if we're thinking about specifically of August, sometimes it can just feel full. You know that feeling, just full. And it's because the 9 holds every number that came before it. It is the last single-digit destination holding all of the single digits before we add another. And so it is like standing in this threshold, standing at the end of the journey when somehow still carrying pieces of every step along the way. And every other number that we go through is very focused. So the 1 is asking, who am I becoming? Very identity-led. The 2 asks, who am I becoming with? Right? Relational, connection-led. The 3 is expressing. The 4 is building. The 5 is changing. The 6 is nurturing. The 7 is seeking. The 8 is achieving. And then the 9, the 9 is holding all of them simultaneously. So if August starts to feel a little full for you, or even a sense of overwhelm comes in, before you assume something is wrong or make any decisions, I want you to ask yourself, is it just that I'm standing on a threshold? Because thresholds are naturally full places. Let me say that again. There is nothing wrong. Thresholds are naturally full places. I mean, just think, laughing out loud, if I'm literally thinking of the threshold to my house. Anybody else have an entryway that is just scattered with shoes and clothes and dog leashes? And I mean, is this too much information? Thresholds are naturally full places. And if you happen to have a cleaner, more organized actual physical threshold in your home than I want you to imagine trying to walk through any doorway, carrying everything that you think you will need, holding pieces of your past in one hand, dreams about your future in another, unfinished conversations at the same time, like new opportunities, parts of your old identity, parts of the person you're becoming. Like, again, coming in with the winter jacket and then like having things that you need on the inside also. Like, no wonder this energy feels crowded. No wonder it feels heavy. But here's what I love so much about numerology as a modality. It gives us a way to simplify. So whenever the energy of the 9 starts to feel like too much, I ask myself, what number am I actually experiencing right now? Because maybe it's not the whole 9, right? Maybe what I'm really feeling is the uncertainty of the 1 or the relationship dynamic of the 2. Maybe I need more structure of the 4. Maybe it's asking me to embrace change like the 5. Maybe it's the responsibility of the 6, the ambition or the pressure of the 8, right? The fastest way through overwhelm is specificity, because overwhelm happens when we can't identify something, right? So when we stop trying to carry the whole month at once, or the whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 energy at once, and instead we specifically identify the energy that is actually asking for our attention, everything will start to soften and you will feel less full. But it requires reflection. Again, a beautiful invitation from the 9. And here's where things start to get really cool. So going back to that picture or that energy of the season of light where we're walking towards this star. We've identified this star and we've been walking towards it all quarter. I would say even a little bit before this quarter started. August gets us close enough to realize, spoiler, it's not just one star. It is part of a bigger constellation. Right? Do you see? I can't wait, cannot wait for this moment for everybody. Because we might not yet see the whole picture. We don't yet. But by late August, early September, we will. And I keep seeing so many faces in my life of people I love, my clients, my family, me, even you listening, because I see some people I don't know, of someone slowly zooming the camera out. And at first focused on this really one bright point, this star, but then another, and then another, and then another. And it's this moment of, oh my gosh, they're connected. And that's what August feels like. Random moments begin, seemingly random moments, I should say, begin revealing themselves as pieces of a much bigger decision. Separate conversations, even with different people, start to connect. Pieces become patterns. Like, again, things that felt unrelated suddenly are like, duh, that makes perfect sense. Because we are beginning to see the constellation, not just the stars. Another big theme, and one of the strongest images that came through for me for August, is one of unexpected visitors. Like knocks on the door, unexpected emails, introductions, chance meetings, maybe even old memories resurfacing. Someone mentioning your name, an invitation, a conversation you didn't see coming, right? It's almost like the universe is like sliding something across the table. Like, what about this? And I kept on seeing one of those old Rolodexes. And I laugh because depending on how old you are listening, you may never had a Rolodex, but I did. And it was this circular thing on my desk, which had everyone's business card in it, like actual physical business cards. And you would rotate it. It would be in alphabetical order, and you'd rotate it. And that's where everyone's phone numbers and email addresses and contact information would be. It's like connecting people, like a network, like who's in your Rolodex. And I feel that is such a beautiful energy coming in August, which is it does also feel incredibly relational. And it might require us to review our Rolodex and see which of these connections do I still want to prioritize, and where can I create room for new? Because unlike, cloud storage now, which is unlimited, if you can imagine this physical, tangible thing with all of these business cards, going to Staples, oh my gosh, you guys remember Staples? I mean, I know it still exists, but going to Staples for office equipment and buying this, some Rolodexes could hold 100 business cards, some could hold 500 business cards, but whatever it was, there was a limit. So whenever I got a new business card, at the end of every year or when my Rolodex started to get full, I'd have to go through the existing Rolodex and be like, like who haven't I talked to a while? And either I would connect and reach out, or I would take the card out of the Rolodex and insert the new card. And that is a perfect metaphor or analogy of what the energy feels like with relationships this month. And, this also brings right into this next theme, which is the choice between fitting in and belonging. Because when something new arrives, it's amazing how quickly some of us shapeshift, right? Some people perform or some people shrink, really trying to become who you might think this new person wants you to be, trying to fit in, wondering who we should be to deserve this unexpected opportunity. But August is telling you to stop. It's never going to ask you to fit in. It's asking you, will you belong? And although some of you might be hearing this and saying, aren't they the same things? No. Fitting in asks you to change yourself. Belonging asks you to bring yourself. And bringing yourself in its entirety is one of the greatest invitations that August is going to offer you. The other gift that the 9 brings is neutrality. Oh, I love this one. Can you simply say what is? So not what it means, not the story behind it, just what happened. Here are some examples. An unexpected email arrived. Period. A client said no. Period. Someone reached out. Period. Plans changed. Period. It is what it is. Period. Right? So many of us say the thing and then we continue the sentence with what we think it means. But the second that we decide that we already know what it means, we stop becoming available for what it might become. So, when these unexpected visitors come in August, can we simply observe what is happening without rushing to decide what it means? Listen, I get it. We're so quick to assign meanings. Like we want to know how the story ends. But actually, if you think about this, I don't want to be halfway through a great book and already know the ending. Why would I keep reading? And I think the same is true for life. Let it unfold. Stay curious. And I really want you to hear my voice in your head this month. Whenever you start to continue the sentence or create meaning or a story behind an event, I want you to hear me say, period, right? I want you just to observe, name the observation in neutrality, period. Another big theme feels like there's a beautiful dream life happening in August, where ideas seem to arrive while we're sleeping. Solutions are going to appear when you've stopped trying to solve the problem. Connections happening behind the scenes. Intuition getting louder. And this doesn't mean that we need to analyze every dream. It just means pay attention, notice, observe, remain awake. Because the challenge of August is falling asleep at the wheel or going on autopilot. Because it's we're coming to this threshold. It's oh my gosh, you know what it's like? It's when you get to your final semester I remember when I got to my final semester of college, first of all, I chose my courses. I think I had like a yoga class. I had a scuba diving class. I think I had one or two like kind of harder academic classes. But it was kind of like I was coasting, like falling asleep at the wheel until I realized that I had missed so many yoga classes that I might actually freaking fail yoga. What? Now, what makes this more absurd is before this last semester, I had a 3.92 GPA, like close to 4.0 GPA. And can you imagine if I had let myself fall asleep at the wheel to get a freaking F in yoga? Oh my gosh, I'm still laughing at my 21-year-old self here. But this is kind of the energy of like the challenge of August is when we're kind of coming to this threshold, looking too far ahead, or even forgetting how much hard work we put in, like how much, oh my gosh, time in the library I spent my freshman, my sophomore years, right? Like really getting to that point. We want to make sure that we don't fall asleep. But there is this opportunity to remain awake without like gripping the wheel, right? Remain present without becoming paranoid. There is this difference. Now, I talked earlier in the podcast about celebration and the importance that celebration plays in the 9. Because a celebration is not because everything is finished. Celebration can also be because it creates capacity for what's next, right? Think about a birthday, celebrating the past year and the next year. Graduation, yes, is celebrating the completion of, a chapter, but also really celebrating the next. Same thing, baby shower, the end of your child-free days and celebrating the start of your child-full days. Oh my gosh, I never thought of that. Child-free versus child-full. Ugh, I'm in the child-full right now. And deciding what it is we want to celebrate and how we want to recognize is super important, because choosing quote unquote the wrong thing really deters us from taking this next step. So I'll share it in 2 ways. Many people who have the 159 in their chart, they get through life very quickly, and their present to themselves or their gift for themselves is when they finish something, guess what? You get to start something new. Like, of course, and then sometimes that has us stop completing a task, not because we don't want to complete the task, but because we literally don't want to do what's next on our list. And even, I sound so smart in my podcast, but I make so many mistakes, especially as a mom. And the best example I can give is like when I told my girls, okay, like clean your rooms, and then when you're done, I want you to clean the bathrooms. And I would check in with them, and like nothing was done. And I was like, oh my gosh, girls, what happened? And like my youngest, God bless her, she was like, Mom, why would I clean my room when the reward for cleaning my room is cleaning the bathroom? Like, I'm just not gonna do it. And I was like, oh my gosh. She is my Saturn, by the way. She is my greatest teacher. And so that's an example of when we don't stop to celebrate the completion or the threshold of something, we sometimes hold ourselves back from starting the next thing. And then the other side of this celebration or reward is making sure we're rewarding or celebrating the actual behaviors that we want to see continue. And the best example I have for this is a corporate client that called me in to really help with their employee recognition program, right? Of course, they were welcoming in a new demographic of people, especially those born in the 2000s or later, and they were finding that the typical way that they rewarded or recognized the employees in their call center was not working anymore. And I was like, oh, let me see what's up. So I went into their business, and they had created this recognition system where they would recognize and reward employees based on the number of calls that they took during the shift. Like how many people they spoke to, how many times they answered the phone and got off the phone. And that made sense on paper, I guess, because they were like, we want people to be efficient. We want people to take as many calls as they can. Except that it completely changed the employees' behavior. And because of that, it was tanking their reviews from customers. Because what do you think happened? Everyone was rushing. They didn't want to solve the problem. They just wanted to get off the phone. And so customers were calling back more often because they weren't satisfied with the first interaction. And so the metric, the celebration metric, was rewarding activity and speed, not impact. And I was like, okay, so let's celebrate something different. Can we celebrate how many problems they actually solve, regardless of how much time it took on the phone? Can we celebrate customer feedback, through a survey, all of these things, celebrating the outcomes, celebrating the resolution on the first call. And, my intention energetically was, well, whatever we celebrate, we create more of. And let's just say the result was, life-changing, company-changing, and I'm still consulting for them, obviously, right? Because when we started to celebrate different behavior, we got more of that behavior, and that resulted in such a different outcome. And so I've thought about that experience so many times over the years, and I'd like to ask you some questions here. What are you rewarding in your own life? What are you celebrating? Are you celebrating being busy? Are you celebrating building something meaningful? What are you rewarding? What are you celebrating? Because August is really going to ask you to notice. Celebration is not just the reward for what you have done. Celebration is what creates the energy for this next chapter. So let's celebrate in a way that we want more of. This next theme that's coming through is, from the 4 agreements. And if you haven't read the 4 agreements, it's a really beautiful book. I actually have a card deck as well. And one of the 4 agreements is don't take anything personally. And this is going to be really important in August. Not every closed door or someone saying no to you is rejection, right? Not every delayed email or unanswered text means that someone doesn't like you. Can you, again, be neutral in this? Simply letting things be what they are before you decide what they mean. And that perspective and neutrality and wisdom is really important here. And so I have a homework assignment for you. I'd love for you to read the 4 agreements if you haven't already, and really focusing in on this agreement of not taking things personally and seeing how this affects your interactions in August. So as we kind of come towards the end of the forecast, stay with me because I have that exciting announcement coming. I want to leave you with a few questions, and I'll invite you to sit with them. What am I making room for? Who or what is trying to find me? Where can I really focus on belonging rather than fitting in? What opportunity would I recognize as such if I wasn't quite trying so hard or busy focused on other things? And can I trust that I don't need to be responsible for everything? Because that's another thing about the 9. Sometimes we mistake it for the 6, just opposite. And the 6 wants to nurture, to fix, to hold everything together, whereas the 9 simply witnesses. But it's not a passive energy, it's a masculine energy. And it reminds us that some things, I would say most things in life, the hardest thing is to receive it. So carry your lantern, trust your light, stay curious. The constellation is already forming or has already formed. By the time we get to September, you're going to look back at this month August 2026 and realize that all of those unexpected conversations, those little interruptions, those quote unquote chance meetings, these ideas that came out of nowhere, they were never random. They were stars. And you just hadn't seen the constellation yet. I'm so excited for us to experience August. Okay, but before we wrap up, remember how I told you at the beginning that I had something very unexpected to share? Well, here it is. I guess there is no better month than a 9-month to stand on a threshold and tell you something that still feels a little surreal to say out loud. We are launching, dun, 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 an app. Yes, I know. If you had told me a few years ago that I'd be launching an app, I would have laughed because I am the person who forgets her Apple password. I still have moments where I'm like literally in the Apple store being like, can you help me? I can't figure this out. So the fact that I am about to have something in the Apple store, in the Google store, is not lost on me. And also that, my friends, is why I have an incredible team working on this with me. Because, of course, I've learned that you do not have to become everything. You just have to be yourself and surround yourself with people who are brilliant at the things that you are not. And I know what your next question is, which is, Jess, what it's called? What is it called? Well, I can't wait to tell you. It is called... Are you kidding? I'm not telling you. Because the whole story behind the name deserves its own episode. It deserves way more than 5 minutes because, you probably guessed, the name is not random. Every single letter was intentional because I used numerology to choose it. And once I tell you this story of how the naming of the app came to be, you are going to start looking at names in a completely different way. So that is actually what we're going to talk about next week. How we can use numerology to harness the power of names, of words, of language. And it is then that I will reveal the name of the app. If you have any guesses, I'd love for you to send them over to me on Instagram. Just message me and tell me what you're thinking. We'll play a little game to see if anyone guesses before I announce. And if you are curious and you want to be the first to know, not only about the name, of course, but about when the app is available, I want you to go down to the show notes and join the waitlist because you are going to be the very first to know when we officially reveal everything. I genuinely cannot wait to share this with you. And you can hear in my voice that this emotion tells me that this is threshold energy, not just for me, but for the world. This app is going to revolutionize how we feel and interact with energy. And I just can't wait for you to experience it. And also a reminder that listening to your own intuition and choosing timing that feels amazing for you, not what the rest of the world says is the best timing, is the best move you can take. And for me, this project has really told me and reminded me of this energy of August, which is not everything is revealed all at once. Sometimes the constellation unfolds one star at a time. All right, my friends, thanks for joining me. I always appreciate and love our connection here. Message me on Instagram. I'd love to hear how your July went, what you're excited about for August. And we'll see you back here next time. Bye. Thanks for being here inside the Energetic Advantage. If today's episode opened something for you, share it, tag it, or send it to the person who popped into your mind. And remember, energy first, strategy second. Your advantage has always been in you. Now it's time to lead with it. See you next time.